Welcome back. All right, so we've got 10 games in the National Hockey League on Sunday. It's going to be hockey all day after we lose an hour's sleep. Okay, so starting at 10 a.m. Eastern, or 1 p.m. Eastern, which is 10 a.m. Pacific, which is going to feel like 9 a.m., Carolina and Pittsburgh. So we start off the day with a matchup between two teams in the Metro, one that's in first and one that wants to get closer to first. So Carolina has won both matchups. February 20th, it was a 4-3 win. March 4th, it was a 3-2 win. That one in overtime. So Pittsburgh keeps them close. Tomorrow, Pittsburgh wants to get the win. They want to pull themselves ahead of the Rangers again. So for Carolina, they're 41-12-5. And they have to be looking around the East right now and saying, we might end up being the number one seed in the East when all is said and done. It is possible. Over their last 10, they're 8-1-1. They've won 4 in a row. So they're playing very well. Away from home, they're 18-8-3. They're 8 points ahead of both the Rangers and the Pittsburgh Penguins. On the Pittsburgh side, they're 35-15-9 over their last 10 games. They're 5-4-1. At home, they're 16-9-5. They're 8 points behind Carolina. They're tied with the Rangers. They're 5 points ahead of the Washington Capitals. So, really, the odds of the Caps catching up to one of the top three teams are slim. The odds of Pittsburgh catching up to Carolina, pretty slim as well. But hey, if they win tomorrow, anything's possible, right? That'll put them within 6. Then at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, we've got the Heritage game in Hamilton, where they're going to be wearing these Arenas jerseys, kind of, sort of. But they got rid of the stripes, and they made it so you can't read the word Arenas. Because that's what was wrong with this jersey, was it was too legible. So this is going to be played in Hamilton, so the away and home doesn't really mean anything. But Buffalo's designated as the home team. Yep. So November 13th, Toronto wins 5-4. On March 2nd, Buffalo whooped them 5-1. And for Toronto, they're going to need to straighten that out. They're 37-16-5 over their last 10 games. They're 5-3-2. They lost their last game in extra time. Away from home, they're 17-9-3. Again, both teams are away from home in this one. They're 1 point behind Tampa. So what's weird is Tampa's losing 2. So they're actually only 1 point behind Tampa, second place. They're 2 points ahead of Boston. So Boston, with them winning 9 of their last 11, they've really tightened up that race in the Atlantic. On the Buffalo side, they're 19-32-8. Over their last 10 games, they're 3-7. They're coming off that win against Vegas, which had to feel pretty good. At home, again, they're designated the home team. They're 10-16-4. They're 1 point behind Ottawa. They're tied with Philadelphia, and where they are in the standings, this is the third of 4 meetings. They meet again on April 12th. 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We've got 4 games starting at that time, beginning with Montreal and Philadelphia. So that'll be fun. December 16th, Montreal wins in a shootout 3-2. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Montreal's 15-35-8 over their last 10 games. They're 7-2-1. They lost their game tonight in extra time, a shootout loss against Seattle. And it feels like they're starting to get some of those bad habits back into their game. That, again, I mentioned this in the review, power rankings as well. But that coach's bump's a real thing, and it feels like reality's starting to get back there for Montreal. They're 7-18-6 away from home. They're 8 points behind Philadelphia and Buffalo in that last spot in the East. Philadelphia is 18-30-10 over their last 10 games. They're 3-6-1. They've lost 2 in a row in regulation. At home, they're 11-15-5, 1 point behind Ottawa, tied with Buffalo. This is the second of 3 meetings. They meet again on April 21st. 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 Pacific start time between the Vegas Golden Knights and the Columbus Blue Jackets. This, again, is one of those games on the schedule for Vegas that you'd look at and say, that's one they should win. But that's been said over the last 10 days, and Vegas has been finding ways to lose games they should win. Vegas won this matchup on November 20th at home, 3-2. We'll see what happens in this one. For Vegas, they're now 32-24-4. Over their last 10 games, they're 4-6. They've lost 3 in a row in regulation. Away from home, they're 16-11-1. They're tied with Edmonton, but they're the number 2 wild card because of the tiebreaker, and they're 1 point ahead of Dallas. So they are barely in a playoff spot right now. Columbus, 29-27-3 over their last 10 games. They're 4-4-2. They did win their last game. At home, they're 16-12-3. They're 6 points ahead of Detroit, 7 points ahead of the Islanders. So they're the top team that's outside the playoff picture. They likely keep that spot. It won't make them feel a lot better after the season's done, but they're competitive. Also at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, the Winnipeg Jets in against the St. Louis Blues. These teams have met 3 times as their fourth and final meeting. The first meeting was November 9th. That was a shootout win for St. Louis, 3-2. Jets have handled them since then. December 19th, it's a 4-2 win for Winnipeg. January 29th, it's a 4-1 win for Winnipeg. The Winnipeg Jets, 26-23-10 over their last 10 games. They're 4-4-2. They did lose their last game in regulation. Away from home, they're 11-12-8. Big part of the reason they're below the playoff line. They've only won 11 out of 31 on the road. They are 6 points behind Vegas, who are that second wild card. It is a daunting task for them to get into the playoffs right now. St. Louis is 34-17-7 over their last 10 games. They're 6-3-1. They've won 2 in a row. At home, they're 27-2. They're 3 points ahead of Minnesota and 5 points ahead of Nashville. So they're trying to widen that lead, knowing that either Minnesota or Nashville will get points tomorrow. And if that game goes overtime, they both get points. So St. Louis, it's an important game for them. 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, Nashville against Minnesota. So this is the aforementioned matchup that could affect St. Louis's standing. The Nashville Predators won the first meeting on October 24th by a score of 5-2. For Nashville, they're 33-21-4 over their last 10 games. They're 5-5. They lost their last game. Away from home, they're 16-10-4. They're 2 points behind Minnesota. They're 2 points ahead of Vegas for that first wild card spot. And they're 3 points ahead of Dallas. So they're not that far above the playoff line either. Minnesota, not that far above it either. 34-19-4 is their record, so they're only 2 points ahead of Nashville, meaning they're only 5 points above the playoff line. They're 3-6-1 in their last 10. Their last game was an overtime, or extra time loss, I should say. 17-6-1 at home. They're 3 points behind St. Louis, 2 points ahead of Nashville. It's tight in the Central. 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific start time between Anaheim and the New York Islanders. The Islanders went to Anaheim and won 4-0 on February 27th. The Ducks are now 27-24-10. They're 4-5-1 in their last 10. They lost their game tonight against New Jersey Devils in extra time. Away from home, they're 11-13-6. They are 4 points back of Vegas and Edmonton for that final playoff spot. They have no games in hand on anybody they're chasing. They've played more games than everybody they're chasing. The Islanders are 23-24-8 over their last 10. They're 5-4-1. They've won 2 in a row. They've looked good lately. At home, they're 13-12-4, so they're above 500 at home, which has been rare this year. And they're 1 point behind Detroit. They're 5 points ahead of New Jersey, so they're moving up in the standings. They can jump past Detroit with a win tomorrow. It's small victories at this point for the Islanders. And then at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific, what might be the game of the day. Calgary in against Colorado. March 5th, that was a game of the day. A 4-3 overtime win for Calgary. That was a sensational game. And Colorado since then, they've had their problems. Now for Calgary, they're 36-15-7 overall. Their last 10 games, they're 7-2-1. They've won 2 in a row. Away from home, they're 18-10-2. They're very good on the road. They're very good at home now. They're 7 points ahead of LA. They are 11 points ahead of either Edmonton or Vegas, whoever gets that third spot. Calgary's in no danger of falling that far. Colorado 41-13-5 on the season, but over their last 10, they're 5-4-1. They've lost 2 in a row. So they have 11 points in their last 10 games. Calgary has 15. So they've gained 4 points over that 10-game period. Home record is 23-3-3, but one of the second column of threes, which is the overtime loss, that was against Calgary. They're 12 points ahead of St. Louis. So even though Colorado stumbled a bit, they're not really in any danger of losing first place in their division. And that's the kind of cushion that Calgary would like to have atop theirs. Then we get into the late games, 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific. So again, it's hockey all day. The Tampa Bay Lightning beat Vancouver 4-2 at home. Now they get to go to Vancouver and try to do the same. Tampa Bay is exhausted, though. And it's been a long road trip, and now they got Vancouver. They're 34-15-6 over their last 10 games. They're 6-4. They've lost all 3 games in regulation on this road trip. Away from home, they're now 18-10-2. They're 5 points back of Florida, so they're falling out of contention for first in the division. They're 1 point ahead of Toronto, and they're 3 points ahead of Boston. On the Vancouver side of things, they're 29-23-7. They're 7-2-1 in their last 10. They lost their last game in overtime against Washington. They're 13-10-4 at home, and they are 3 points back of Vegas and Edmonton for that final playoff spot. They're 2 points behind Dallas. They're 1 point ahead of Anaheim. So there's a bit of a grouping there, but Vancouver's in good shape. They're 7-2-1 in their last 10. You look at that, Vegas is 4-6. So they've had 15 points to the 8 points. So they've gained 7 points on Vegas over their last 10 games. That's not bad. If it keeps going in that direction, they would pass Vegas over the next couple of weeks. The other problem, though, is that they have to pass Dallas. They have to also make sure they keep other teams behind them. So it's not as simple as that, but it's nice to think of it that way. 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, Florida comes in against L.A. And L.A. went in and beat Florida 4-1 on December 16th. So Florida might be kind of angry, and Florida's playing some angry hockey. They're 40, 13, and 5. Last 10 games, they're 7-3. They've won 5 in a row. They're absolutely rolling right now. 14, 7, and 5 away from home. They're 5 points ahead of Tampa and 6 points ahead of Toronto. Yep, they're starting to run away with the division, and they're against an LA Kings team that's pretty beat up, and it seems like they're losing a couple players a night right now. They're 6-3-1 in their last 10. They did lose tonight against San Jose, and now they get Florida tomorrow. At home, they're 14, 12, and 3. They're 4 points ahead of Edmonton and Vegas, who, of course, are third and the wild card team. They are 5 points ahead of Dallas. So while they're above that playoff line, a 5-point cushion can disappear quickly if they fall into some disrepair with injuries, and if a team like Florida comes in and does what Florida does. So let me know your picks for Sunday's games in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. We lose an hour. It's going to be quite the day. We'll get through it. I'll get through it. It'll be fine. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.